people will let us know we were able to take what we got in our 2.5 hours with you and immediately apply it. We immediately took what we did in our breakouts and put it to good use in our teams and in our company. And to me, that says that we're relevant. That says that we're doing work that is meaningful, that our clients really need, and they can absolutely use it. It's practical. And that's something that you and I have always really strived to do, is bring a practical element to this.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. Absolutely true. So we're talking a lot about kind of those kind of broader engagements, so just for folks who maybe aren't aware, we wear a few different hats in the world when we're working with our clients. And you can almost think of it from micro to macro. So from a macro standpoint, it would be like a broad leadership Foundry engagement. We would go in and we'd work with an organization who might pick 50 leaders, 100 leaders, 150 leaders, and create a custom program that really meets the particular needs of that organization. And then we'd roll out a program over 6 months. That might involve sessions as well as individual coaching. So there's the macro one. Then we might move down a notch and we would work specifically with a team. An intact team, typically leadership teams.
Right.
And we're really working with them to help them function better, have the conversations they need to be having with each other, which, gosh, every leadership team probably has an opportunity to get some improvement there.
You think?
I know. I'm being pretty gentle, but it can all get better there.
Right,
and then at the micro level,
Sure.
it's us as individual coaches.
Right.
We've got our individual clients that are sometimes part of those organizations or part of different organizations that we work with them individually on their particular needs and challenges.
Yeah, I mean, you're preaching to the choir. I totally agree with that. And I think what's interesting is if our listeners, if our people that are listening to this would actually think about, the dynamic that often creates a leadership Foundry engagement. You and I might be working with an executive coaching client, one-on-one, a senior executive. And during the course of those conversations, he or she may, talk about, I think I'm making progress, but my team is very dysfunctional. We have no trust in our team. And you and I will just simply respond with questions. Tell me more. Let's talk about that. And then, you and I we're not pushy people at all, but we may just say, listen, if you're ever interested, we'd love to talk to you about what the Leadership Foundry could do for your leadership team. So a lot of our bigger engagements are often driven from a very early one-on-one conversation with a senior executive. And I'm really proud of that because I think it demonstrates that we are meeting the need of that person, but listening to what their bigger needs are, which really supports what you said.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pivot this a little bit. We talked about kind of that broader leadership Foundry engagement. Let's go down that one level. Let's talk about executive teams, leadership teams.
Sure.
So when you think about some engagements that we've had over the last couple of years working with executive teams, or just generally speaking, what would you say are some of the big opportunity areas that executive teams were able to really challenge themselves to take these head on? It's really going to set them up well for next year, because my hunch, our hunch, is that this is really where there's going to be some real intense focus. If whether we're dealing with potential disruption in the economy or whatever may come, I think there's going to be an expectation and a hope that these executive teams fire on all cylinders. So what are some of those levers they can pull that would get them firing more optimally?
Well, a couple of things, and you and I always like to peel back the onion. So you kind of look at what are some of the key causes for some of the challenges that we see. We're under enormous economic pressure. The economy's not in great shape right now. We've got leaders that are doing so much more with less. So a lot of the leaders we engage with are under a lot of stress, a lot of duress. And that brings out behavior that, the Berkman would say is the opposite of their normal behavior. So when you've got leaders that are functioning under this stress and duress, it brings out a side of them that creates a lot of dysfunction on teams. So the two words that just come out resoundingly to me when I'm talking to these teams and leaders is trust and candor. We don't trust each other, and we are not honest with each other. So those are just two of the areas. I'm sure you've got others that are just coming at me in waves right now. We need help with that. We don't speak the truth, and we just really don't trust that the other people on the team have my best interest or our best interest at heart.
I agree with that completely, and I think that part of what, I don't want to say fractioned or fractured, but what creates a little bit of that divisiveness inside is a lot of the businesses that we work with, and even beyond the businesses that we work with, they've got a couple factors going on right now. Revenue tends to be pretty good. They've had good numbers because they've had to increase their fee structure, prices, whatever it happens to be, but their costs have gone higher than they needed them to be,
Absolutely.
anticipated them to be. So their margin is really, really tight.
Right.
And I bring that up because what that has created in a lot of the teams that I've seen is you end up with this tension between operations/finance and sales. Sales is like, hey, we did our job.
Right.
Why can't you guys get your act together? And then by starting the conversation that way, immediately it's creating this us versus them. But you're all supposed to be on the same team. Right? It's not about one person winning an MVP on a mediocre team. It's about winning a world championship. So I think if we take that idea of trust and candor and we really apply it, we want to see our teams having conversations about the overall business.
Right.
And locking arms and talking about the elephants in the room and not just staying within their respective silos and sandboxes.